Um, Thanks so much for joining us today. Lovely to meet you all. I'm James. I'm the Chief Commercial and Product Officer at Seccl. I've worked here for 6 years and I'm super excited to be giving you a bit of an update on everything that's been going on at Seccl for the first 6 months of 2025. Before I hand over to Liv, who will just do a quick recap of who Seccl are and what we do, just a couple of bits of housekeeping. Just to let you know, this webinar is being recorded, and the recording and a copy of the slides will be shared with all of the attendees post the event. Please also use the Q&A. Hopefully you can see that in the middle of your Zoom screen. We will be taking questions at the end of the webinar. So if anything pops up, please just drop your questions into the channel, and we'll make sure to answer them at the end. And without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Olivia.
Thanks, James. Hello, everyone, and good morning. I'm Olivia, Head of Growth here at Seccl. Have been with the business for about a year now. So work very closely with James and the rest of the commercial team, supporting growth across our various client segments, namely financial advisors and wealth techs. And we're really excited to share with you today what we've delivered over the past 6 months at pace as a team here at Seccl. Um, so just going over the agenda of what we're going to cover, which James touched on. I'll quickly go over why Seccl exists, and what it is we actually do and how our product works. And then James will kind of jump into what makes Seccl's tech different and unique. And finally, wrap up with what we've actually shipped and delivered over the past 6 months and what we're really excited about as a company. And again, as James mentioned, please definitely put your questions in the Q&A on the right-hand side, and we'll be sure to address them at the end of the session. So jumping right into things, why does Seccl exist? And why is it we do exactly what we do? And it probably sounds a bit corny, but I think the team is genuinely really excited here about ensuring that we help people invest and invest well. As we all know in this room, there's a ton of barriers to investing and the average person having access to investing, whether it be like lack of financial education or the lack of tools. And I think you can really say that Seccl has decided to place the battle on tackling the broken platform industry to make those barriers lessened for people to invest and invest well. And we really do think today's investment platforms are slow and expensive and built on outdated tech, which struggles to really keep up. And many people on this webinar today may be customers of this broken incumbent firm ecosystem. So you may have experienced change or the fact that feature deployment takes forever. Perhaps you're seeing not transparent fees and or manual workarounds that are used to cover up poor processes at these businesses. And when you actually lift the operations and lift the lid on the operations that are happening on these incumbent firms, we find that these businesses are very expensive to run. So instead of using automation or innovative technology, the platforms that are in existence today kind of just throw manual humans and human APIs at the problem. They really throw bodies and extra body resource at this. And so ultimately the cost of running these platforms gets passed down to the everyday retail consumer, which we just don't think is necessarily that fair. So from day one, Seccl's goal has been to create a better and more efficient alternative to these platforms, one that really does lower the cost and improve user experience and delivers long-term value, not just to Seccl's customers, but to the entire industry. And I think everyone will know probably very well by now that we are part of the Octopus Group. And, we know that it's not an easy feat tackling one of the biggest challenges in financial services, which is, rebuilding investment infrastructure. But again, we're not doing it alone. We have the long-term support and scale and stability of Octopus to really lead meaningful change in this space. And, we're both here for the long haul. And we have the luxury of having the agility of a startup as well as a very well capitalized group behind us. and it's the same group that's kind of, disrupted everything from healthcare to energy. And we're just both doing it again, but in the investing space. And I guess this slide just kind of ties everything together. So as I touched upon, we're in a really unique position at Seccl because we have the best of both worlds. Again, this startup mentality with tons of funding from Octopus. And also, it's probably worth noting that in today's market, having a clean bill of regulatory health is becoming really an important differentiator in the market. And we're really proud to have all three of these pillars at the foundation of what we do, so we can have the confidence to go out and build cool tech that's underpinned by robust processes and funding and regulatory track records. So in terms of what we actually offer, well, I mean, as you'd expect, Seccl offers all of the basic building blocks you'd expect from an investing platform. So firstly, we obviously provide FCA authorized custody. We manage the trade execution and client money operations. And in the middle, we offer everything you'd expect in terms of investment platform functionality. So everything from seamless onboarding, portfolio management, fee handling, and client reporting. And again, I just want to highlight the fact that this is all fully digital and built to scale. And finally, as you'd expect, we offer digital tax wrappers. So we can support anything from an ISA to SIP. And because we're API first and highly automated, firms can launch and manage these tax efficient products quickly and with minimal overhead. And at the bottom there, you'll see these are accessible by developer friendly APIs as well as off the shelf portals. And so the building blocks and the infrastructure that we're building is primarily used by two broader customer segments. So financial planning firms and wealth techs. And, first we partner with financial planning firms to help them offer a solution which gives them greater control, flexibility, and, generally significantly greater improved client journeys. And then on the other side of the market, we work with various wealth tech companies, digital banks, and actually, for that matter, more non-FS embedded investment propositions. So we kind of enable the market on the right-hand side to integrate these various investment capabilities into their existing digital offerings. Really those firms that want to broaden their investment proposition to ensure their customer base is well served and importantly, as sticky as possible in this competitive landscape. And I think what's really exciting at Seccl at this time is our strength as a business lies in the ability to bridge these two worlds. So, traditional advice firms with this new wave of digital investing. And it's become very clear to us when we're designing the product and looking at all the data that the needs of the average retail consumer, whether it be on the financial planning side or the digital investing side, are really converging into a single model. And Seccl's very uniquely placed with a product that captures that shift. And one great example of this, which James will touch on, is transfers. So, we've built something that we believe is market leading in the transfers process. And anyone who's tried to move a pension or ISA knows how slow and frustrating it can be. And the process can, quite literally be distressing, as customers are often, waiting weeks for their money that's been left in thin air. So I think the point of this is no matter how slick the front end looks on either side of those two journeys, if the back end doesn't work, the customer experience suffers. And then more specifically in terms of, that first segment that we serve with financial planning firms, we're really proud to say there's a wide range of firm size that we work with. So it can be anything from a mid-size to a large-scale business. And while assets under management around 250 million above is typically what we try to work with, it can only really be one indicator of the firms that we partner with. And assets under management isn't necessarily everything. So what's most interesting about Seccl is, we work with firms, again, of all sizes and shapes, and everyone can really benefit from our platform. And we're really trying to just remove that barrier of the type of firm that can work with us and the size of firm. And then again, it's worth noting that we're seeing a lot more traction in the advisor consolidators entering the market. and they're often looking for, really big plays on efficiency and consistency when they acquire books, and they're increasingly turning to Seccl so they can roll out those efficiencies across their entire acquisitions. And then on the right hand side, you'll see three firms that use Seccl in action. And then moving on to the wealth tech side, we're seeing a number of established fintechs and neobanks partner with us to, again, really deepen that customer relationship. And their goal here isn't necessarily to enhance an existing investment proposition. It's actually to offer accessible, affordable investment solutions. And we'll call out Monzo in the next slide, but again, we work with firms like Chip, Monzo, and Penfold. And in as you may have seen, and something we're obviously very proud about and shouting in the market is we have now officially power Monzo's investment platform. And we think this is really a great example of how firms can go live quickly with our technology. And from a standing start, Monzo was actually up and running in a few weeks. And we just want to again highlight that this speed isn't necessarily unique to Monzo specifically. It's typical across a number of our firms. That said, obviously advice firms can take a little bit longer just due to the complexity of their books and regulatory permissions, but we'll come on to that next. And I guess just to kind of start finishing off this section of the webinar, we wanted to really hammer home the fact that Seccl does most of the heavy lifting, and our approach is to let you do what you do best, and that is really focusing on the customer journey, dealing with customers and clients, and that UX if you're a D2C firm. So we make it really incredibly easy for firms to go live and start delivering real value from the get-go. So as has become clear in the past few minutes, we do handle all the custody and client money services, manage the wrappers, oversee the investment operations. So again, you can control what you do best, and that's the client experience on both ends of the advisor and D2C spectrum. And then to finish off, when it comes to your reg requirements, there's a couple of important things to keep in mind. There's a few ways to get routes to regulation, and you'll need a couple of key permissions, but the good news is that many of these advised firms already have this in place. And if you don't, it's not necessarily a big hurdle, and we're there to support you. So you can either secure them yourself or choose to operate as an appointed representative, which really does simplify the process. So again, no matter your size or operational setup, every advice firm or shape and size of fintech firm can really benefit from our technology. And that's what really makes Seccl different in the market. And in terms of the white labeling approach, there are, just to finish off, a few firms that you can rely on to use our tech. I think James, you're up next.
Thanks, Liv. That's great. So I'm just getting control of the slides. Cool. So yeah, we really do think of ourselves as a technology company, and I wanted to talk a little bit about how we approach building our technology, which really helps us deliver for all the customers that Liv's mentioned on the previous slides, and also deliver at pace, so increase the velocity of change in our product. So yeah, there's four kind of main things that really help us deliver what we think is an unrivaled speed and quality of delivery. First of all, that's our architecture. So we're really built to encapsulate change. Financial services is no stranger to the concept of change, whether that's regulatory change or changes in terms of the demands of customers. We need to be able to make sure that we can change our system quickly and safely, and our architecture supports us in doing that. We also are big believers of maintaining a single instance of our code base. Like unlike some of our competitors in the space, like each of our platforms that we've shown, regardless of whether they're a D2C or an advice platform, they're all powered on the same underlying product that's supported by our code. So it's not like we create bespoke instances of our product in order to support the variations of our customers. We're also a modern company, like our tech stack is up to date. We make use of AWS and MongoDB, which are kind of state of the art financial services components, and that enables us to have kind of unrivaled uptime and performance in our product. We don't have downtime or planned maintenance for upgrades. That all happens with the product staying 100% live. And we also think that the way in which we structure our teams really helps. And I'll come on to talk a little bit about that in the next few slides. So as I mentioned, we're big believers of the single branch model. We have a single instance of our product that's deployed to our AWS estate, which all of our different platforms plug into. So we have a standard API which all of our customers use. And what that means is if they want to change their offering, add new products, maybe it's offer new wrappers or new investment types, there's no change required on our side. All of that is available within our API, and they can kind of pick and choose the products and the services that they want to use as part of our tech. And that's versus like what some of our competitors have on the left-hand side, which is different versions of the platform depending on the customers that they're serving. And this has like a number of big impacts. Like first of all, it costs for change. So Seccl as a point of our philosophy, we don't charge for change, whether that's regulatory change or upgrades to our tech. Like we don't charge our customers for that change. It all comes out of a single fee, which we charge as a custody charge. Secondly, there's no kind of upgrade path. So you'll have heard of other platforms where they become kind of stuck on an old version of the technology and they can't actually move on to the latest version. Or if they do, it takes a serious amount of effort to do that. We don't rely on our platforms to conduct user acceptance testing. That's all done in-house on an automated basis to try and make it as easy as possible to maintain and deploy Seccl. I mentioned at the start that we're definitely a technology company, and I think that can be shown by the percentage of our team that sit in product engineering. We're about 170 people strong at the moment in terms of number of employees, and 50% of those sit in product and engineering. We're also API first as a principle. So everything that we build and release is released in our API first and then added to our user interface as a next step. That means it's not that we've bolted on like APIs on the side of our monolith. It truly is like two separate products. And we're our own customers of our API. So our UI developers who are building our professional or investor user interfaces, like they get first-hand experience of how our API works, give feedback to the developers to make sure that it's easy to use and integrate with. I mentioned that the way in which we structure our teams really aids our delivery. And I think the key bit around that is what we've called like our pod structure. So, like lots of companies, we sit product and engineering together as a single cross-functional teams. These teams have different domains which they're responsible for. So they'll have a different area of the product which they're totally responsible for. Where that domain touches an operational area, so like transfers or payments or trading, they also sit together with the operations team. So really close, making sure that those on the ground using their technology to administer our clients' assets have really small kind of problem space between them and the engineers who are building that product. We find that gives us really good feedback loops and the ability to kind of iterate and also allow our engineers to really understand how the operations teams use our technology. Here are some headlines for the first 6 months of the year. Um, we release on average 10 times a day. So I think like a good industry standard might be once a fortnight. We're releasing at a much faster rate. And we think there are lots of benefits of that. Like firstly, it shows the pace at which we're delivering. It also allows us to make the deployments much smaller. That's like a really modern tech way of releasing software, which is the smaller the release, the better. That's kind of rolled up into releasing over 1,800 times in H1. All of that happened with no downtime, no impact to the API performance. We're also starting to really see like an increase in usage, both in terms of number of customers, number of transactions on the platform, but also API calls. So we're upwards of nearly 500 million API calls in H1. And that's rapidly growing. Our AWS estate and the way in which we've architected our platform means that we're still able to hit our latency SLAs for our customers. So we haven't seen any kind of degradation of performance as we scaled up our service. In H1, we went through two big milestones. We had our first month where we delivered over 1 million client-driven transactions. So these are transactions that happen on a client account. And then in June, we went through 2 million. So we're really starting to see the activity grow on the platform, which is super exciting. Hopefully now we can give you just a bit of a closer look about what we've delivered over the last 6 months and what's coming up next for the rest of the year. We had like three real kind of keen focuses for H1. I'll start at the end. Number one was around transfers. So we've been really trying. Transfers is a big pain point of the industry. Whether you're a wealth tech or an advice firm, like the experience of transferring, getting your customers to transfer their assets from other providers is incredibly painful. I don't know how many articles I've read in the trade press, like bemoaning the effort that it takes to get people to transfer their assets from other providers. And whilst we do see that it's an industry-wide problem and there are lots of issues with how providers behave, we also think that there can be a lot done by making sure the experience is as slick as possible. And this is really a problem of information asymmetry. We're making sure that all of the information that we have on the transfer is as available to the customer or the advisor as possible so that they can really understand what's happening and where the next action sits. And I'll come to talk a little bit more about some of the work we've done over the last 6 months to really enhance that experience and make it as slick as possible. We've also spent a lot of work on our advisor experience. So this has been through deliveries like joint accounts. We've recently enabled customers to be able to hold joint accounts. We've also released corporates and trusts. We've enhanced our fee flexibility so customers can have their advisor fees grouped. So if a family has like a single advisor tariff across the family, that can be applied. We've made significant enhancements to our user interface to make the experience much better for those advisors and slicker. And we've also really enhanced our integrations between Planner and Money Info, making sure that clients, if they're using those systems, can be onboarded without actually leaving the CRM. So we're big believers that the platform should be integrated into the planning experience. That typically happens with either the client relationship tool or a tool like Money Info, which is the portal. And so we've been working with those firms to make sure that the onboarding experience is integrated into Seccl. We think that's a massive focus for the next 6 months as well. And finally, we've been really enhancing our API experience. So we've added lots of webhooks. These are really important for those firms that are building their own user interface to make sure that they don't have to continually poll our API and we can notify them as soon as like a transaction completes or a transfer's landed or the customer's accepted terms and conditions. We've also built like secure data files. So again, like customers might want to take like a copy of our data on a daily basis. This is now available as part of an API. So rather than having to like poll all of the data, they can kind of consume that as a flat file, really reducing the cost and the kind of energy expended on both sides to get that information. Um, Sorry, I'm conscious this slide maybe is a little bit overwhelming, but I wanted to give you kind of a sense on all the functionality that we have available on transfers. As I mentioned, this is a massive focus for us at the moment. We're rapidly increasing the number of transfers we're processing. And so we really want to make sure that we've got like a market leading piece of functionality about how we are informing our customers about transfers. Um, as a kind of provider, we think that there are really a couple of key things that mean that you can improve the quality of the transfer experience for your customers and your advisors. That starts with automation. So the more automated your transfer processing is, obviously the better. Like manual processes take time. When firms are busy, they take longer. And they also can lead to errors. And as I'll show on the next slide, we're getting really close to having, well, we've already achieved having like the happy path of a transfer being completely automated. So no human interaction in terms of the instruction, the tracking, or the allocation of the cash. Um, we're also really keen that we support by passing as much information back to our customers and advisors. So we now have like rejection reasons in our user interface so customers can see like why their transfer has been rejected. And that gets fired out as a webhook as soon as it happens. So as soon as the transfer gets rejected, like our firms can show that to their end investor. And we just released updates as well. So, and not only is it just a rejection, but if a transfer has been updated, whether we've chased or we've received information from a provider, again, that gets passed straight through the product into the hands of the investors so they can act upon it. And what has this kind of led up to? So yeah, these are the different steps of a transfer. So we really focused on Origos. These are pension cash transfers. So these are the system that we use in order to initiate pension cash transfers. And what you've seen is we've got the submit the transfer instructions. So from when the customer instructs their transfer, that's straight through automated. So there's no human touching that. On the automated email chasers, all of that is automated. So we automatically email our providers when certain time periods have elapsed to kind of chase for an update. When the seeding provider lets us know that they've sent the funds, we automatically create the expectation in the system, and then we've got automatic fuzzy matching to make sure that that money is allocated to the account. So on a happy path, like there's no human interaction in terms of our transfers team, and we think that's going to allow us to scale our team and scale our processes materially better than our competitors. And this just gives you a flavor about how we're tracking. So we've got different SLAs that we set for our transfers internally. These are depending on the type of transfer when we expect it to complete. We make this publicly available to all of our firms in our BI tools. So all of our firms can see how we're performing on our transfers for them at any given time. I think so. Yeah, we're rapidly increasing the number of transfers. So July we actually finished. In July, we actually finished with over 2,500 transfers completed. We're expecting by the end of the year that number to be up to 10,000. And our big metric of success is really how we can increase the number of green transfers. So at the moment, we're sitting at 90%. We're really trying to nudge that up. But like on average, we see like simple cases complete within 5 or 6 days. So making sure it's a really good experience both for our customers and our advisors. In order giving you like a fuller update about what's happening over the next 12 to 18 months, we're looking to expand our investment options. So at the moment, through Seccl, you can get access to equities, ETFs, investment trusts, and funds. And we'll soon be adding gilts and structured products to that as well, to make sure that you have the full range of investment options in the product. We'll be surfacing the real-time updates that I mentioned into the user interface to make sure that our advisors and our customers can see them as quickly as our API customers can. We're looking to improve our trading for ETFs and equities to make sure that we can have like intraday fractional trading. So to enable customers at the moment, we offer fractional trading, but it's once a day. We want to make sure that customers get that kind of instant trading functionality available through Seccl. We're also really focusing on bulk migrations, both for existing wealth techs with existing platforms, but also advice firms that are looking to migrate their customers over client by client. We've done a lot of work in terms of making sure that we can make that migration as painless as possible, and there's more coming in that space to really enhance the experience. And we've got further fee flexibility coming, so we're going to enable fees to be taken from a nominated account, making sure that you can have your fees taken from in the most tax efficient way. We're looking at expanding our wrappers offering, so offering like an onshore bond and an integrated offshore bond. We're looking to enhance our banking platform to enable like a greater variety of payments, and we've got more focus on improving the user experience in our user interface for advisors. So that's a super whistle-stop tour of everything we're going to deliver. And I think I'm now going to hand over to Liv. So please put any questions you have in the Q&A, and we will run through them in the next 10 minutes.
Great. Thank you, James. Right. So we have a few questions here. I think we'll probably have time for one or two. Um, okay, so the first question we have is how do you ensure you're delivering for the different types of users you have slash different industry segments? So I think that's in reference to the wealth tech and the financial advisors.
Yeah, thanks, Liv. Yeah, really good question. I think like we're a big believer in this concept of convergence. So to date, I think people have seen these types of segments needing different types of investment functionality. Our view is over time the requirements of each will come together. So the digital experience that you can get from someone like Monzo or Chip is still often materially better than like what a traditional advice platform might offer their advice clients, which is kind of nuts when you think about like how the relative those people pay to the relevant providers. So we're big believers that the need for digital experience that we've had driven from our wealth techs will become really apparent in our advised customers, and vice versa as wealth techs seek to kind of attract customers with kind of greater balances. They want to be able to implement some of the advice technology that we've built into their own products.
Nice. Okay, we have another question and comment. Great presentation. Thanks for hosting. Love the mission of making investing more accessible and congrats on all your growth. This is a very kind question slash comment. Seccl is clearly passionate about the retail investor. And I think the crux of this question is if there's any product dev considerations about bringing direct to consumer offerings to the market, and how that kind of works with our roadmap and how we plan for that.
Yeah, it's a really good question. I think we're big believers that like you should stick to what you're best at. We're probably best at building infrastructure rather than a consumer brand. You're totally right. Everything that we try and do is passionately because we believe we believe passionately about improving the end investor outcomes. But we think the best way we can do that is supporting other firms in their own specific segments to do that. So whether it's Monzo or Chip or Penfold or Timeline or Soderbergh, like each of them have their niche. They're all in different ways trying to lower cost, improve customer experience. But our view is we're better placed providing the infrastructure to do that rather than bringing to market like a D2C brand um, uh, that would kind of compete with our customers, if that makes sense.
Nice. I think we might be over, but I'll try for a few more and people can drop off if they need to go. But there's a few questions around how we actually plan our roadmap. And one specifically, which is quite eloquent, is which internal mechanisms have been most pivotal in enabling your deployment to production cadence? And how do you ensure quality alongside velocity?
Yeah, great question. I think it's broken down into a couple of different parts. So, like number one is the implementation of really high quality and rich automation tests. So, all of our code, when written, has automation tests that go alongside that. They're broken down into like unit tests, which are testing the individual functions, integration tests, which are testing the components. And then like full wide system tests, which are smoke testing the end-to-end journeys. Like we have thousands of tests that run as part of every deployment. And that makes sure that when we do deploy something, like we've got a high degree of confidence that we're not gonna break any of our existing functionality. Um, that said, and we are like we've got a change failure rate of under 3%, which puts us elite. So only under 3% of deployments would ever cause like a defect. And then I think the key bit of that is making sure you've got really high observability and the quick ability to roll back or remove the deployment. So we aim to roll back within an hour if anything happens, and that's only available due to our observability in the system.
Nice. Okay, I think we have time for one more, and I'll try to group them together. There's a few questions about what exactly else like we're doing in the industry. So obviously, as James touched upon, like transfers is something that affects everyone industry wide. Um, and someone's asked if there's other areas of concern that we're addressing, such as letters of authority or anything else along those lines.
Yeah, really good question. It's not something that we've veered into yet, but it's definitely at top of mind. Like some of our customers integrate with Raindrop. They're kind of like a pension tracing company, so they help customers like find lost pensions by automating the process of generating letters of authority. It's something that we might like choose to do in the future, but like our customers often like choose to integrate into a third party if they want to add that functionality.
Um, okay, great. Should we sign off now, James, and say thank you, or do we have time for one more question?
Why don't you do one more and then we can finish up?
Okay, cool. Um, so final question of the major feature introductions, API-led transfers, dynamic fee structures, and better transfer experience via webhooks. Which of these have had the greatest impact on client satisfaction or workflow efficiency so far, and exactly are you measuring that?
Yeah, great question. So that our product team are really we're really enforced our product team are really metric driven in their approach. So we want to ensure that whenever they're building a feature, they really understand what is the KPI that they're trying to move as part of the deployment, and they track that to have the impact. I think for us, the transfer scalability work has been really important, both in terms of client outcomes. So we've been able to reduce the average time it's taken to complete a transfer by about 40% through the work that we've done, but also improving the efficiency of our team. Like we try and offer our services at super low cost, so our firms can offer them at super low cost to the retail investor. That's only really possible if we're not charging, or if it doesn't cost us very much to administer a transfer. And so we really focus on how many transfers we think each full-time employee in our transfers team can actually handle in a given month. And that's a metric that we've probably increased by about 100% over the last kind of 3 to 6 months. So yeah, that's probably the biggest enhancement that we've made. So
Great.
I think there's one more question that I think we should answer, which is just on questions around tokenization or illiquid assets. So I think, sorry, I'm just trying to find the question. Um, yes, I think the question was like, have you thought about like tokenization or illiquid assets? It is something that comes up again and again. It's not something that we've like I don't think as an industry we've made too much progress on yet. There's a lot of talk about getting funds on blockchain and things like that. That's not something that we focused on too yet, but we are like closely watching the ETP consultation paper from the FCA. So the FCA have recently released a consultation paper around potentially allowing ETPs, which are going to be like exchange traded instruments that are going to have like an indirect investment in Bitcoin. It's something that we're following closely and hoping to be able to enable our customers to release as well. So yeah, hopefully that answers that question. Cool. Well, thanks so much for joining. Really appreciate all the engagement in the Q&A. You can find both Liv and myself on LinkedIn. So if you do want to reach out and connect, please do. We're always open to having a chat or a coffee, whatever suits you best. Final bits of housekeeping are just as a reminder, the slides and the recording will be sent out after this. And as the webinar ends, there'll be a super short survey that pops up. It's just a couple of questions. We'd really appreciate the feedback so we can tailor these for next time. But thanks so much for joining. I hope you have a great rest of your day and catch you all soon.